one of the things that Missouri has is a thing called Safe at Home, and for victims of domestic violence, there doesn't have to be a prior conviction. It's a very loose definition of victim. You can utilize a different address as long as your address is not already in the system. So if you ever have a victim of domestic violence who really needs to keep his or her address safe, that Safe at Home program, you can find it on the, I don't know if I put it down this information, but if you just go to the Missouri state website, it's called Safe at Home. And I imagine if anybody can't find it and needs more information, let me know. For some reason I didn't add it to my list. I'm just going to go over also a couple things in your handouts. The after Jack's different websites, I've listed a variety of different resources for domestic violence victims of a variety of different backgrounds. One of the things about domestic violence is that it is the same and different for cultural communities. Some communities, it is a very, very taboo situation, and so it's not often discussed. This is an incredible resource for victims of domestic violence and for attorneys or practitioners working with victims, because it gives you lots and lots of information. If you have somebody who is reluctant and it seems a cultural issue, check out one of the websites. It's phenomenal. So look at that. The final thing on that handout, I hope that the majority of you have seen something like this. In regard to lethality in domestic violence situations, as an attorney, when I get that initial first phone call from a potential client, I typically do a lot of domestic violence or child abuse cases, and one of the things that I ask the women, sometimes the men, not always, and that's maybe kind of sexist of me, but I always ask, are you in a safe place, first of all, to talk to me? Do we need to set up a different time where we can talk just on phone to get the basic information? And we go through those sort of things. Are there guns in the house? What are you going to do? Do you have a safety plan? Make sure that somebody always knows where you're at. What number should I call you on? Because my caller ID is going to say Jill and Katz LLC, and people can figure out that's an attorney. You ask those questions, even though this is not my client yet, just even before they come in and meet with me. Assessing the situation, the danger, so also I know how soon I need to get them in, whether I need to get them connected to resources prior to coming in. And oftentimes I'll give them a shelter number or a hotline number so that they have that. We talk about safety planning and what to do in that interim. This checklist, the first three questions: has your perpetrator ever used a weapon or threatened to use a weapon, threatened to kill the kids, or do you think he might try to kill you, or your perpetrator might try to kill you? The answering yes to all those questions, big red flag. And maybe that's just the kind of cases I have, but I have had women be killed. I've had children killed. It happens. I gave this presentation to a group of lawyers, family law lawyers. Somebody told me, well, I don't have those kind of cases. You practice family law, you have those kind of cases. I wear a bracelet every single day in the memory of Jenny. Jenny was killed by her, at that point, ex-spouse, May 11th, 6 years ago. He decided he was going to get things resolved, and why don't you come over to the house so we can talk about it, because I'm going to be leaving. She thinks he's going to move to Florida, and she was very excited. He took a shotgun, made a homemade silencer, killed her, shot her 3 times in the back. And he's a former firefighter. She worked at DST. There was violence in the marriage. The family didn't know what to do about it. She didn't show up with black eyes or bruises. She didn't miss weeks of work because she was injured. It was pushing, shoving, strangling, those things that you think, not such a big deal. He killed her after they were divorced. It happens in every single community and every piece of society, so it's so important to ask those questions. So when you ask it, just make sure you think about your caller ID when you call back. If somebody leaves you a message and it's a new client, you don't know which number, if they left you a home number and a cell phone number, call the cell phone. And if you call home, don't necessarily leave a message. I mean, obviously you got caller ID. There's mechanisms that you can do to show that it doesn't show up. I don't necessarily do that. If they've only left a home number, I will call. I won't leave a message. Or if I do, I'll say, this is Jill. Here's my number, and I leave it at that. Don't ever, hi, this is the divorce lawyer you called, because you're creating a potential safety risk for your client, and that's kind of a low-tech thing.
Yep.
But guns are in homes. It's so important to ask the clients about the guns. You want to find out if they're locked. Now, I'm not saying that everybody needs to get the guns out of their home. I know plenty of people who have guns in their home, plenty of my clientele, they keep the guns in the home. But it is a conversation you need to have. You need to have the discussion about safety with the guns. Ultimately, it's still your client's decision what to do with that. But it is something that you need to know, because also, if you're having a settlement conference in your home and you know these people have guns, you may not, or your home, in your office, you want to make sure that you have the right safety precautions for that, because that happens in the news all the time. You hear about the settlement conference where one of the parties has gunned down everybody. One of the things, and I think that it's on one of the websites that Jack has, this Internet Explorer password recovery. There's a program that you can load onto your computer and you can find every password that you've ever entered into any kind of online site. So you think that you're safe because you've got your own personal little password, not so much. And going back to Jenny, who was killed by her husband, during the course of their litigation, he tried to commit suicide, and during his recovery, she felt sorry for him, let him in the house. He put the keystroke monitor on their computer, her computer and the 16-year-old computers, and was stalking them after that. I caution clients about using their ATM cards and credit cards that other people have access to, their spouses. ATM shows your pattern. If you use your debit card every place, you know what you do on a daily basis. You know, you can look at my card, you know where I go for coffee every day, where there's 3 places by my office that I go to lunch. They're usually on the same kind of dates. So I'm a real kind of creature of habit. So if my husband wanted to find me, you know, he could find me. But if I didn't want him to find me, he still could find me because I am a creature of habit. So tell your clients if they need to drop, you know, their cash at the beginning of the week, you know, do it at one time, be a cash society. That will protect them. If they want to make a quick getaway, then there's no history of where they've been the last few days. If they're moving their stuff, it's really important. The whole credit card thing is also very scary, because you can obviously see, love the computer, I can see what I've spent my money on, but so can my husband, and so can anybody who has access to my accounts. The several banks, although they tell you that they will keep them separate if you open up accounts, if your main account with your family, in my house we've got, you know, 2 savings account, a checking account. The girls both have their savings accounts. My daughter has a checking account, even though she doesn't live with us. And then my work trust account, all on this one bank. And I didn't realize that my work trust, my husband can see it. I'm not concerned he's going to take money or anything out of it, but you know, that's my work, that's my trust money. He shouldn't have access to that. But because our whole account, my Social Security number is listed first, since he has the passcode, he can see all of those accounts. And it's like, oh my gosh, my daughter can see all of my accounts too. That's not so good. So keep that in mind, that if you have a client that then, okay, you've advised her you need to get a separate account, but they stay at the same bank, that other person may still have access to the account. So you want to change the actual bank. So if all their family accounts are at Commerce Bank, they need to go to Bank of America or some other bank because of that accidental information, because, oh, it's all the same people, it's the same house, or they previously have worked together on it. It's a whole lot of things that you do just in general when you're representing people who are victims of domestic violence that really aren't technology. Again, the low tech, the whole basic thing, making sure that somebody always knows where they're at. I always tell my clients it's like being back in high school. You need to have somebody not in your household that always knows where you're at, what time you're supposed to be someplace, what time you're supposed to leave someplace. Somebody that will call somebody if you're not found or if you don't show up where you're supposed to be. Because one of the things about victims of domestic violence is if there is a problem or kidnapping of children, the sooner it is made known to the authorities, the safer that somebody's going to be, the less risk to that person. Just over the weekend, there was that Amber Alert, and kids were found up next to Canada. If there was 3 hours wait time on that, or I don't know how long that they got to that Amber Alert, the thing out that would have been, those kids would have been gone. They would have been out of the country, and so the quicker that information is known, and you can only, victims of domestic violence can only ensure that somebody's going to know that they're missing if somebody knows to be looking for them. And if it's a mom with little kids, obviously the daycare is going, oh well, why hasn't she shown up? But what if, like in Jenny's case, she has little kids. She had a child in grade school and a child in high school, but she had a roommate that picks the kids up from school, so nobody would have really missed her if they hadn't known. She at least had told them that, hey, I'm going over to his house we're going to finalize things, and he's going to be going on. And then she never came home. Somebody at least knew to go look for her. Unfortunately, it was too late. The going in and out of court, obviously you need to make sure that you talk with your clients about safety. Most courthouses, I think probably all courthouses that I've ever had the experience of, if you have a concern about safety, you can find a sheriff or court personnel that will walk you and your client to the car. If you are having people in your office, and I know that some of us here are mediators, the whole question of, so you've got some safety concerns, who do you let leave first? And I used to I'd have the perpetrator leave first. Well, maybe Pete was told me that was stupid one time, but what? That's making me waiting in the parking lot. I have the victim, who I perceive as the victim, leave. And that's why I left it at. Then I had a time where the victim stayed in the parking lot, and then she comes back in after I'd made them wait 5 minutes before he left. And I'm like, so now what I do is if I perceive an issue, I ask that person to leave first, and then ask that once they're in the car out of my parking lot that they call me. Then I wait another few minutes, and then let the other person go. And I may change that in the future, but that's what I do now, just really make that effort. And I can't always guarantee that, even if they're happy and smiling during the course of the mediation, that there's not going to be violence in my parking lot.